So while we talk about steel and aluminum as products, there are people behind those products. So let's bring in Kevon Stewart now, who's the director of District 6 for the United Steelworkers. Devon, you represent, I think, more than 80,000 workers across Ontario and Atlantic Canada. Let's start with them. How are they holding up right now?
Well, it's fair to say we're frustrated and we're angered by these punitive and reckless tariffs. We know fully it's going to impact workers on both sides of the borders. Trump has basically thrown our supply system and economies into chaos with these on-again, off-again tariffs. That's only going to impact workers and families on both sides of the border. So, Canadians are going to be impacted, Americans are going to be impacted.
We've heard, Kevon, some people say that some people have already lost jobs. Are you seeing evidence of that so far?
No, not yet. I mean, look, the threat has been out there for a little bit, but the immediate impact of job loss is not there yet. What we need to focus on is the tariff is there. What we need to really focus on is make sure that the government, unions, and the companies are all aligned and working together, so when the impact does happen, that the workers are supported.
Can you put some perspective on this for us? From your vantage point, what do you think these tariffs will do to the Canadian steel industry? Can you help paint a picture for people who aren't in that industry?
For sure. I mean, look, at the end of the day, our two economies are so interdependent of each other. We got products that's basically, starts off in Canada, for example, gets shipped down to America, and then some kind of process is done to it there, then it gets shipped back to Canada, and then we might do another process and ship the final product or final assembly back to the U.S. Now, keep in mind, every time that product crosses the border, there's going to be an additional 25% cost that's put on it. So what's going to happen? It's either there's going to be a market that's going to be available for it, or there's not going to be a market that's not available. And if employers can't find a market for their products, especially in the States, then the potential impact of layoffs are going to happen. And if layoff happen, then we got to come up with a game plan to make sure that those workers, when they are impacted, they are supported.
So your union put out a statement where you noted that Canada imports 39% of its steel from the United States. It exports 94% of its production. I'm not in this industry, and there are things about it I, like a lot of other Canadians, don't understand. Why does Canada need to import any of it? Why not keep more of that production in Canada and import less from the U.S.? What are the barriers there?
That would be where I think our government has got to start turning their minds to where we need to go in the future. If the intent is to rely less on the U.S. and other countries for their supply, then we need to make sure that we have our business and our operations set up in Canada to reduce the reliance. Our members right now, just in steel and aluminum alone, 50 to 55% of USW members would be impacted. Mm-hmm. So the focus right now would be for us to basically get our act together and start focusing on Canada. Reduce our reliance on the US and other markets if possible, and then we don't have to worry about these tariffs being hung over our heads, so to speak, by the Trump administration.
How did your workers fare the first time around in 2018 with those steel and aluminum tariffs?
I mean, there were impacts, but the impact wasn't as great because we were able to basically work together with the government and the employers. We came up with work sharing programs. We came up with other financial programs that were basically readily available to assist all the impacted workers. But again, we don't need to take on these tariffs right now. There's a CUSMA agreement that's well in place. It's an agreement that's basically agreed upon by 3 countries. And, the U.S. played a pivotal role in that agreement. So it's working. We don't need to go away from that.
Do you think the government this time should repeat what it did in 2018? Should it be a more forceful response?
Well, I mean, look, what the government should do is actually recognize us as a valuable trading partner to the U.S. We're not the threat here. We're not the problem. Do we know that there's potential other countries that may be violating certain trade policies? For sure. And I think that's where attention should be focused on. But Canada is not the enemy here. Canada is an ally to the U.S. in these industries.
It sure sounds like that's an approach that's been tried and hasn't made a mark yet, but sounds like a good idea to keep trying it. All right, Kevon Stewart now is the director of District 6 for the United Steelworkers. Thank you, Kevon.
Thank you.